All right, everybody, let's get right into this episode of Buckeye Banter. Today we are just going to focus on the Buckeyes and going to focus on that Big Ten championship game yesterday and a CFP preview now that the matchups are out and we know we're in. So without much further ado, let's get right into this episode of Buckeye Banter. Welcome to Buckeye Banter, Sports in the OH. All right, so first, I'm just going to talk about the game a little bit. Then we'll get into the preview for the CFP. Yeah, that first half was brutal. I don't know what took so long to make the adjustments that obviously they then made. I think most of us were wondering why we weren't trying to just keep running the ball more. Eventually we did, and Trey Sermon just wow. I mean, that guy, where was he all year? Um, he had a decent season. I think he ended up being an honorable mention in the Big Ten. But if he could do that, anywhere near close to that, this is the problem with a 6 game season, little time to lead into it. The guy really probably just now is, fully familiar with the playbook and what's going on and comfortable. So who knows? But, that possibility going into the college football playoffs, which we'll get into in a minute, definitely gives our offense another element that consistently we didn't have. Now, obviously, Clemson's a little different than Northwestern, but I think the one thing we need to also point out here is don't sleep on Northwestern's defense. Don't think for a minute. Now, at the end of the day, when it comes to our maulers up front, we should be able to do what we did, which is control the line of scrimmage and maul. But their defense is still very good. Um, Against many teams, that score would have been a lot uglier than that, and it was all year long. And for a half, they didn't give up a touchdown. It's been a long time since Ohio State won a half without giving up a touchdown. Those, by the way, that defense has a lot of young players on it too, so be aware. Now the defensive coordinator is going to be retiring after 51 years in the game. You better believe people will keep coming knocking for Pat Fitzgerald. There's rumors that if the Bears opening happens, that they're going to come knocking again. And hard to blame him. I mean, that guy is a heck of a coach. And a good guy. It seems like everybody likes the guy. Even he, when the talk about the coach of the year came out, he was basically trying to say it should be Day, and I think Day was saying that it should be him or I think it's Tom Allen at Indiana. Um, you know, but it just says a lot when this guy does what he does at Northwestern. Don't forget also, by the way, Northwestern is a very difficult school to get into. Now, sure, I am sure that some of those guys on the football team are helped in their scheduling, and once they're there, that there are things that are done legally, but you know to help them continue to be able to stay there. But they still got to get into the school, and that's not easy. There's some, they can't bring in the same academic level of players that some schools can. It's a very difficult school to get into. So that's, hats off to Pat Fitzgerald and Northwestern. And that was a heck of a game because those boys came to play. Um, Ramsey, much like Trey Sermon for us, looked at an opportunity and went there. And, he had a pretty good game. Um, our defense really showed up in the second half. The first half, I don't know what was happening. Now, I personally think that Baron Browning not being out there and obviously our safety not being there. You're talking about two key cogs in the middle of the field who are probably more or less the two quarterbacks of the defense. And I think that showed in the first half. Proctor made some big plays, but he also made some big mistakes, and that's to be expected when you're kind of thrown into it in a role that's not where you're usually at. So, yeah, I think first half rough, second half we looked like a team that deserved to be in the college football playoff talk, and we got in. I think that if it weren't for that big of a turnaround in the second half and the performance of Trey Sermon, a lot of those critics might have had a little more sway, but thankfully, I think we were pretty secure all along. I think, mostly it was talking heads that were seeing us on the outside. But the games all kind of went the way that could have seen us on the outside. I think in most of the scenarios, and we still ended up at 3. So that seems to indicate that we were pretty solidly in there as long as we won. Florida gave Bama a good game, but they didn't win. So obviously that would have been the other one that would have maybe been able to throw something for craziness. But I still think that they had a hard time putting Florida in, even if they won because of 2 losses. That's really hard to justify. I don't care what conference you play in, what year it is. But once you have 2 losses, it's really hard to justify you being in, especially when one of those is to a not very good LSU team this year. It doesn't matter that LSU won it all last year. This is not the team that they fielded last year. Most of those guys are playing in the NFL right now. So, what's going to happen now? College football playoffs. The pairings have been announced, and we've got Ohio State against the Clemson Tigers and Notre Dame against Alabama Crimson Tide. So those matchups are going to take place. Some thought they'd put Bama in the Sugar Bowl because it's close to home, but it sounds like they actually sent them to the Rose Bowl in order to actually help them have more fans be able to attend. That they saw it as a way of doing them a favor because there's going to be less fans allowed at Mercedes-Benz Stadium than they're going to allow in Cowboy Stadium, which is now going to host the Rose Bowl. So Alabama and Notre Dame will be in the Rose Bowl, and Ohio State and Clemson in a rematch in the Sugar Bowl. Make sure I got that right. I think I did. So, yes. So, in the Sugar Bowl, the All-State Sugar Bowl, and it's going to be January 1st, 4 p.m. for the Rose Bowl, 8 p.m. for the Sugar Bowl. So that's going to be a fun one. I think probably they got it right, although I'm not a huge fan of the Notre Dame argument. Especially based on how bad they lost yesterday to Clemson. But I don't think A&M deserved to be in either because they got beat just as badly by Alabama. And Jimbo can say all he wants about 7 straight SEC wins, but you know what? The 7 teams he beat in the SEC weren't the good ones. He lost to the one that mattered, and they lost big time to them. So, in my opinion, I think there is still more of an argument for Cincinnati than for Texas A&M. Feel bad for Cincinnati. I personally would have loved to see them get in there, although I'm sure that that Bama matchup would have been a rough one. So we'll get into what I think about our Clemson matchup and also what I think about the Alabama Notre Dame matchup and what that means for the championship game in a later episode when we get a little closer to New Year's Day. So be on the lookout for that. Just want to mention real quick that we are doing a giveaway. So you've got the athletic.com 30-day guest pass. We're going to give one away a few times. And this first one we're going to give away on the 28th. So you need to have completed all these things by midnight on the 27th, and let me know once you've done them, and we'll get you entered, and we'll announce the winner sometime on the 28th. So you need to like our Facebook page, follow Buckeye Banter on Instagram, subscribe to Buckeye Banter on YouTube, share at least one of our videos on YouTube or Facebook with a friend, and invite 5 people to like or follow Buckeye Banter on Facebook. If for some reason you're not on one of these, if you're not on Instagram, let me know. Do all the other stuff, and we'll get you in. Most of it is wanting you guys to help out in getting the word out to other people. If you like the program, spread the word. And if you don't have if you're not a subscriber to theathletic.com, you can enjoy it for 30 days and see what you think. I personally love it. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't get anything for doing this. I'm just giving away my personal guest passes. When you join, you have 5 of them, and that's the only way you can get them is you have to have someone who has a membership and hasn't used all their guest passes give you one. So, gonna give them away. It doesn't cost me anything, and I know it's not a big deal for you guys. I think it's like $6.99 a month, so it's not like I'm giving you a fortune. But if you're willing and you like the show, I'd appreciate the help. So don't forget. Meanwhile, while you're here, if you haven't, like, subscribe, follow us so you can get notified when new episodes are coming out. And go Bucks. Hey, we're in the big dance. We got a chance. See what they can do. We'll see what happens with Justin's thumb, and hopefully get everybody back healthy and get into this rematch with Clemson. So we'll talk about that in a little while. And meanwhile, be on the lookout later today. We're going to also get out a Browns preview episode for a big matchup tonight against the Giants, prime time on Sunday night. All right, everybody, have a good one. Go Bucks.